Hello everyone, it's Danzen here. Welcome to day 19 of 100 Days of Code Challenge in Free Code Camp. And we're currently on on module 4, which is iterate through a code block using the for statement in C Sharp. This is the part 3. I have done the previous part from part 1, part 2, and then right now is part 3. Okay, lately we have been discussing about Boolean expression and then variable scope and logic using code blocks. One of the moment in the Boolean expression discussed is about uh, the build, how to build the Boolean expression using the compound assignments like equality, inequality, using the comparison, and many types of compound assignments, also logical negations, which to negate anything, any symbol, any comparison, or just any Boolean expression. And then we came up to the variable scope and logic, which is one of the most important thing that most programmer must learn, must understand about this, because this is essential where you declare a variable outside and inside of the code block, and then you can describe the variable scope along with the namespace, class, and then the smaller one method that is separated by curly braces. So from namespace, class, and method, it should be essential understanding for any beginner, so that you can understand the data structure and the algorithm and how it works. So yeah, that is the essential. But right now, we're gonna deal with the for statement. Probably this is just a friend of for each. But let's see here. Let's just go immediately to the introduction. Okay, so here there are several ways to add looping logic in your application. And depending on the context, it provides a nuanced set of features that have both pros and cons. Okay. Suppose you're about to start working on an application that processes string and numeric data using single dimensional and multi-dimensional arrays. Okay. So looping logic is not just for each, but there are many types of for each, many types of looping logic other than for each, such as we're gonna understand what is the other looping logic in this module. Okay. So it's about string, numeric data using single dimensional and multi-dimensional arrays. Okay, after an initial review, you realize that for each statement do not support looping logic that will be required in many cases. I think for each statement is just can be used for collection of elements such as arrays. So it's just limited or just is restricted to arrays. But other than that, like single data types or variable, it doesn't support that. That's my basically that's my opinion. But I want to see the other opinion here. So you'll need another approach for iterating through multi-dimensional arrays. Okay, and for a situation where for each loop do not provide the level of iteration control that's needed. Yes, I see it doesn't provide the level of iteration control. You need to gain experience using for statement if you are going to succeed on this project. In this module, you will begin by writing for statement that iterates a specific number of times. Okay, after implementing a basic for statement, you will learn how to implement for statement that iterate backward through an array, skip over array element during an iteration. Oh, okay. Basically, we can backward it, we can skip it, and then we can process only specified element of an array by changing the for statement's initializer, condition, and iterator. Also, in my opinion, for statements is more customized than for each, because for it's just limited to the collection of elements, like I said before, which is the arrays. For statement can be used for arrays and other cases, such as any type of data like integer, string, boolean, and others. By the end of this module, you will be able to use for statement to implement looping logic when for each statement do not support the scenario. So here is the learning objective. In this module, you will use a for statement to loop through a block of code. Okay, examine the for statement syntax that enable you to control the iteration pattern. So we're gonna use the for statement and then examine for statement syntax that enable you to control. Okay, so it's about the iteration pattern. So we will customize the for condition and then the for initializer and then their iterator probably. So before you do this module, I suggest you have to meet this prerequisite first. Okay, experience with the for iteration statement and then working with variables. So at least you know for each and variables, and you can go up to this module. Okay, let's just continue. Here is the exercise, create and configure for iteration loops. All right. Starting from create and configure first. On the surface, the for statement is another iteration statement that allows you to iterate through a code block and thereby change the flow of execution of your code. However, once we examine how it works, we can better identify the nuance of each iteration statement and when to use them. All right. So about flow execution. Okay, so essentially what is the for statement? For statement, it iterates through a code block a specific number of times. Like you can put it 5, you can put it 10, whatever you want to put that for your purpose, that's fine. It's different than for each because for each just limited to the arrays elements, like the number of elements inside of the arrays. But for statement, you have to specify yourself. It can be exact number. It can be a constant number, or you can put it as a variable or even a method. I guess. Okay, this level of control makes the for statement unique among the other iteration statement. Yes, of course. The for statement iterates through a block of code once for each item in a sequence of data, like an array of collection. The while statement iterates through a block of code until a condition is met. So another looping statement guy here, which is while, but I think we haven't done about while statement. If I'm not wrong, we will learn about while and do while later on. Okay, it should be tomorrow on day 20. Yeah, day 20 we're gonna learn about do while and while statements. So basically it's similar like for, but the difference is for you can customize the initializer, and then the condition and the iterator. But while it will iterate loops until the condition is met. So that's the essential difference between for and while. Okay, so furthermore, the for statement gives you much more control over the process of iteration by exposing the condition for iteration. So this is the keyword, yeah. For statement gives you much more control over the process of iteration. In this exercise, you will use the for statement, learning how to control the iteration precondition, completion condition, its iteration pattern, and more. Precondition means initializer, and then completion condition is about, it's probably similar like while condition. Yeah, basically this is the condition, and then the iteration pattern and more. Okay, I got it. Also, you'll learn of common use cases for the for statement. Okay, now let's prepare our coding environment and begin our examination of code samples that implement a for statements. Prepare your coding environment. Okay, so basically just a sequence of step-by-step how to set up your Visual Studio Code, or just check in YouTube. You can, there are many tutorials about this, pretty straightforward, or just go to, if I'm not wrong, part 2 on the module 2 is talking about how you can install and configure your Visual Studio Code and how to set up your C# environment. And that's it. Or just check my note on the day 15. I just summarize it. So, okay, we could start from here. Write a basic for a statement. Ensure you have the Visual Studio Code open. So, okay, I'm going to open the Visual Studio Code first. So here is my, let me delete this first. This code, okay. I think I have to copy this first, and then we're gonna read this. This code represents a simple for statement that loops through its code block like 10 times, printing the current value of I. So for, and then continue to integer I, or just probably index or iteration. I don't know what is I things. So basically I is set to 0, and then this is the precondition. After the semicolon, this one is the second condition, which is the completion condition, if I'm not wrong. Where is it? Completion condition, yes. Because if the I has reached 10, then the condition will be met, and then the loop will be finished. And then the third one, the final one is iteration pattern. You can just put I++, which is will add one number for each iteration. So the first iteration I will be 0, and then the second iteration I will be 1, and then the third iteration I will be 2. So just like that. This code presents a simple for statement that loops through its code block like 10 times, printing the current value of I. Even though it will complete it when I has reached 9, I mean when I has reached 10, but the result, it will iterate like 10 times. Okay. So let we test this program. It should have the same output like this from 0 to 9. Exactly. And then take a minute to identify the 6th part of the 4 element here. Initializer, and then condition and iterator. Or just you can say precondition, completion condition, and iteration pattern. And then here is the statements that you want to loop. Okay, the 4 keyword. This is the 6th part that probably important. The 4 keyword starting from here, and then a set of parentheses that define the condition of for iteration. Parenthesis is here. Okay, in this the parentheses contain 3 distinct parts separated by the end of statement operator, a semicolon. Yes, I see there. It's separated by 2 semicolon there. So there are like 3 section that has different purpose. The first part define and initialize the iterator variable. In this example, integer I set to 0. This section is referred to as the initializer. Initializer. The second part defines the completion condition. In this example, I is less than 10. In other words, the runtime will continue to iterate over the code in the code block below the for statement, while I is less than 10. When I becomes equal to 10, the runtime stops executing the for statement. Wait. As you can see, I here. The completion condition, we know about the completion condition, okay? The runtime will continue to iterate over the code in the code block below the for statement while I is less than 10. So when I becomes equal to 10, the runtime stops executing the for statement code block. The docs refer to this section as the condition. So that's why this is called completion condition, because when I has reached 10, exactly 10, then the condition will be finish, or just the condition will be the runtime stop executing the for statement code block, and then it will continue to the next thing. Like if there are like console write line here, then it will immediately go to here, because this for statement has been completed, has been executed. Okay, so the third part define, where is the part? The third part should be here. This is the iteration pattern. Okay, the action to take after its iteration. In this case, after its iteration, I++ will increment the value of I by 1. So it will increase 1 by 1, step by step, each iteration. Let's say starting from first iteration we got 0. So yeah, it will not increase on the first iteration, but it will start increasing on the second iteration. So the second iteration, the I will be set to 1, and so on, 1 by 1. So finally, the code block. The code block contains the code that will be executed for each iteration. Notice that the value of I is referenced inside of the code block. The docs refer to this section as the body. We know, yeah, that this is just the code block for executing stuff. This is the body. This is the body. This is the head. The head has brain. So yeah, this is the brain and this is the body that want to execute. Makes sense, actually, makes sense. What is this? Is this the soul? So okay, let's go ahead here. Given our rules for naming variables, you may wonder if I is a valid name for the variable that holds the current iteration. In this case, I is considered by most to be valid. Other popular choices are X and counter. The name J is also used in those situations when you have an outer for a statement that use I. Okay, and need to create an iteration variable for an inner for statement. So okay, even though I doesn't have any clear naming, clear meanings, it's still considered valid by Microsoft because I is called the current iteration, or we can just say I is iteration. Or if you have more or just nested for statement, like you have for statement for the outer one and then you got the for statement in the inner one, you could put the outer one variable is I and the inner variables is J. So outer one is I and the inner one is J. That's fine because Microsoft told you it's fine. Or if you still confused by its naming variable, you could just name it by yourself that has clear meaning like counter, or just simply name it as iteration or index. It's up to you basically. But and amongst of the developer in C#, or probably not just in C#, but most of the developer use I, consider I as a valid variable name inside of the for statements. So okay, hopefully you got what I mean. Okay, all three sections starting from initializer, condition, and iterator are optional. However, in practice, typically all three sections are used. Okay, now we're gonna change the iteration condition. This is much boring. We need to modify it a little bit so that we can understand how it goes, how we can change it. As we stated at the outside, the for statement has two unique qualities among iteration statement. The for statement should be used when you know the number of times you need to iterate through a block of code ahead of time. So all right, so the for statement, you can just use it if you know what should be the number of iteration that you want to put it there. It can be exactly number or variable that has a value of number. Okay, so the first statement allows you to control the way in which each iteration is handled. Which is iteration. What if we needed to iterate through a block of code but want to count down instead of counting up? It's possible. We have learned about the increment and decrement, right? So I guess we can just put minus instead of plus plus. That's what you want, right? Countdown. Previously is count up, right now is countdown. Use the fuse. Okay, we could just make the I to 10 because if we not, then it will iterates forever like this. Yeah, it will iterate forever because first iteration is 0, and then the next iteration, which is the second iteration, it will be -1, and then the second iteration it will be 2, and so on until unlimited. Then probably it will crash this Visual Studio Code. Bro, exactly, bro. Please, this is yeah, it should be crash. So we need to change this to 10 as the initializer, and then the condition must be 0 because we want to count down from 10 to 0. So we will cut the output exactly until 10. I forgot the open in integrated terminal. There you go. And we got, wait, why I didn't get the value? Of course, because I is less than, it will be greater than. There you go. So it start from 10 to 0. Understandable, yeah? Take a minute to review your updated code. So basically we just initialize the iteration variable to 10, and then we change the completion condition to exit the first statement when I is less than 0. Yes, we change the pattern of the iterator to subtract 1 from I each time we complete an iteration. Exactly. So okay, this should be the output. Yes, exactly the same. We can go ahead to the next section. So experiment with iterator's pattern. What if we wanted to skip past certain values in the iterator variable? So use the Visual Studio Code editor to update your code as follows. So basically here, iterator pattern. So my guess this one will be, oh, another different value here. We will skip 2, but using 3 as the increment. So it will be increment by 3 each time the iteration is complete, starting from 0, and then the max condition should be 10. So the first iteration is 0, and then 3, 6, 9, and the 12 will not we meet this condition, and the compiler will go immediately to the next things, to the next instruction. Will ignore the 12 value when I reach above the 10. So there you go. Let's yeah, 0369. Notice how the output has changed. When you run the code, you will see the following output. Okay, admittedly, you won't do this sort of thing often, but hopefully you can appreciate that you have a fine grained level of control over the iteration should you ever need. Okay, I think the commonly used is just increment by 1. I think it's rare to see increment more than 1, like 3, like this. So use the break keyword to break the iteration statement. Now we're going to break the statement. I want to attempt what happened if I break this 4. Okay, let's copy this. And then wait, let me guess first. Okay, it start from 0. The I is 0, and then the condition should be less than 10 and increment by 1. So if I is equal to 7, it will break. So I guess the output should be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 until 7, because the console.writeLine here is right above the break statement, so it still be printed out right before the 7 is break. So let's test it out here. Sorry. Yes, it should be 7. Okay, what next is loop through each element of an array. A common usage for the for statement is to iterate through an array of elements. Yes, especially if you need some control over the manner in which the iteration happens. While the for each iterates through every element of the array, the for statement can be tweaked to provide more customization. So like I said before, the for statement is more customized rather than for each statements, because as we see here, it has 3 section of purpose, 3 conditional starting from the initializer, and then the middle one is completion conditions, and the final one is iteration pattern or just the iterator. But how about for each? For each just got one statement, which is just increment by 1 from the left to the right, and it should be connected with the arrays or just collection of elements from left to the right. That's the difference between for and for each. So I'm gonna copy this and let's see. Okay, for each statement cannot do like for statement, but for statement can do like for each statements, like this. So let's see here. I is integer, is set to names, or names here is array of the string, yeah. And then he put a method here to get a value of how much is the element inside of this array. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So we will get 4 here. But there is another one here. So -1. So 4 minus by 1 should be 3. Okay, so I is set to 3. And then, okay, this one is minus decrement. So there should be like 3, 2, 1. Oh, 4 iteration, I guess. So we will have 4 outputs probably. The results will be I guess the results will be starting from Michael, and then the second row is David, and then next will be Eddie and Alex. Okay, let's check. Yes, it's backward. Start from right to the left. I'm not sure about for each statements. Is it possible to make for each statement starting from right to the left? As far as I know, for each statement can iterate through the elements inside of the array starting from left to the right. But I never seen for each statement can be used for iterates through the element inside of the array starting from right to the left side. I never see that. Unless you put some methods of tricky stuff there. Take a minute to review updated code here. Okay, first off, notice that we have instantiated a string array named names that contains 4 names. Next, notice that we are using the array.length property to get the number of elements in the array, and that we are using this value to initialize our iterator variable. Integer I is equal to names.length minus 1. We subtract 1 from the value because the index number of array element is 0 base. Okay, the index number of the 4 elements are 0 to 3. Yeah, don't be mistaken about this. The index of array is not from 1 to 4, but it should be start from 0. But we got 4 elements here, so yeah, it should be start from 0 to 3 because 0, 1, 2, 3 is equal 4. The total of the length of this array is 4. Hopefully you got it. Finally, notice we have chosen iterate through the array backward, something that we are unable to do with the for each statement. Yes, oh, I see. You are unable to do with the for each statement like backwards or just start the elements from right to the left side. It's impossible. We use the value of iteration variable inside the code block to specify the index number of the array elements. So yeah, we use the value. Here, the I variable will be changed each iteration. So for the first iteration, we got 3 names and then square bracket 3. We got Michael because Michael, the position of Michael names is exactly on the 3rd index of this variable of this array. And then David position is on 2nd index of this array, and so on. So we got here as the output. Okay, note here we could have iterated forward through the array, but by constructing the for statement as follows, like for integer I is equal to 0, I less than names dot length, and then I plus plus. examine the limitation of the for each statement. What if you want to update a value in the array during the for each statement? During the for each iteration. It's possible or impossible. Okay, let's just copy this first so we can know what's the problem here. Okay, this is just a normal array, and then using the for each statement, var name in names. So if name is David, then name should be Sammy. You cannot do this. Yes, we know about that. But I think you can do like this. Okay, David is on the second index. What about that? Property or indexer string this cannot be assigned. It cannot be assigned. I think this ones can be assigned. But you should have used the different variable here. This is name with that s and then names with s. It will be much more confusing if there are many data here, like hundreds or thousands. So that's the cons of using the for each statement. If you ask me, I would like to use the for statement rather than for each. I will prefer for statement rather than for each because it's more customized. Even though we know that for each statement is useful for arrays, but for statement is much more widely used by developer for complex stuff, and it's commonly used rather than for each. I think for each is just for beginner. If I'm not sure about that. If you attempt to compile and run this code, you will see an exception. Of course, can assign to name because it is a for each iteration variable. Yes, because name is David, and because David is equal to Sammy, David is not a variable. Okay. Overcoming the limitation of the for each statement using the for statement. Let's try using the for statement to modify the contents of an array inside the iteration code block. Okay, alright. What about this? Using the for, yeah? It iterates 4 times. Okay, starting from 0, and then we got the value of the array length here, and as usual, increment by 1. Using the if statement, names. Okay, names is David. Okay, like if names at that current iteration is set to David, then we want to change that David into Sammy. We will replace David name with Sammy. So we will not see David as the result. Let's just check this. I haven't saved it, so that's why. Alex, Eddie, Sammy, Michael. Sammy replacing David. Okay, makes sense. Take a minute to review your updated code. Notice that we removed the curly braces from the code block that contain only a single line of code. The revision uses the same technique to counter variable scope and logic using the code block in C#. Many developers find this style difficult to read. While others prefer the abbreviation style because it helps them write more succinctly, and more expressively if one this code. Okay, difficult to read, or if you just don't prefer this style, just rest assured that the curly braces can always be used in your code blocks. If you want, update the code in the editor panel with the following code. So if you hate this format, like it's like pain in the ass to read this code, just use the standard one. This is pretty easy to read, pretty readable, especially for a large code. So which one do you prefer? I would prefer this one. I know this is a smaller line of code. It has small amount of code, but in the context of readability, I will prefer this. Much more easier to read. Okay, and this is the another important things. Many developers find this style is difficult to read, so that's why I prefer this, because if I want to share it to other developer, of course the other developer will prefer this style over this, because this one is just long enough and like pain to see. While others prefer the abbreviated style because it helps them write more succinct and more expressively. If you find this cool. Yeah, so we got this. Alex, Eddie, Sammy, Michael. Alright. Since the array isn't directly part of the iteration statement implementation, you can change the values inside of the array. Okay, like I can just change the value inside of the array like this. So the first name should be Danzen. Yes, Danzen, Eddie, Sammy, and Michael. Okay, well, I think we can recap first. So the summarization for this unit basically is about for statement, and we just already did write a basic statement and change the iteration condition, experiment with the iterator pattern. Okay, and then use the pre keyword. I don't think I have learned about continue. I still have no clue what is continue means. Loop through each element of an array instead using for each. It's just a kind of alternative. Examine the limitation of the for each statement. Overcoming the limitation the for each statement using the for statement. Okay, so the for iteration statement allow you to iterate through a block of code a specific number of times. The for iteration statement allow you to control every aspect of the iteration mechanic by altering the three conditions inside the parenthesis, the initializer or just the precondition, and then the condition or completion condition, and iterator or iteration pattern. That's it. It's common to use the for statement when you need to control how you want to iterate through each item in an array. So for statement to control how you want to iterate through each item in an array instead using the for each. So it's just alternative. If your code block has only one line of code, you can eliminate the curly brace and white space if you wish. Just the same like we did yesterday, we can just remove the curly braces and white space in order to minimizing the line of code. If you are just focusing on the minimal amount of code. But if you prefer readability, I suggest you use the curly braces for each statement. So, okay, knowledge check. Which of the following for statement is correct? For statement, starting with initializer. Okay, condition and then iterator. This one is correct. What about this? J, correct. And then no, this one is not correct. How about this? Counter, and then counter is less than 80, and then counter plus. Counter. Oh, I think the value. This is 20. Counter is exactly the same like this. And then it's also, oh, I see. This is a colon. Not semicolon. The correct one should be semicolon one. Okay. Which of the following statements should be used to exit out of a for loop before the iteration has completed? To exit the for loop, okay. Not exit, I haven't seen that one. Return is for method. Break, we just learned about break in this unit. So this one, if you want to exit the for loop before the iteration has completed, okay, it should be correct. Yes. Okay, now we are on the challenge activity using for and if statements. The code challenge will run first what you have learned and help you gain some confidence before continuing on. The fish bus challenge. Fish bus is just a popular coding challenge and interview question. It exercises your understanding of the for statement, the if statement, and the modulus remainder operator, and your comment of basic logic. Okay, looks interesting. Let's start this challenge. I guess I can just delete all the code here. So what is the code challenge? Is to implement the fish bus challenge rules. So the stuff that we are gonna use is for, if, and then remainder, or just the modulus. Okay. Here are the fish bus rules that you need to implement in your code project. Output values from 1 to 100, one number per line, inside the code block of an iteration statement. One number per line. Okay, so the total of fish bus fish bus values is 100, starting from 1 to 100, and then it should have be use the console.write line, not just console.write, but console.write line, because the output should be one number per line. We have to enter the line per iteration. Understand? So when the current value is divisible by 3, print the term fish next to the number. Okay, next to the number. When the current value is divisible by 5, divisible is capable of being divided. Print the term bus next to the number. When the current value is divisible by both 3 and 5, print term fish bus next to the number. Ensure that you have an empty program.js pretty straightforward. So it should be, the output should be like this, yeah. Fish bus, fish, fish bus, fish, fish bus. Okay, interesting. We only show the first 22 values, but your output should continue to 100. As you can see, the number 15 is divisible by 3 and 5, so we can print fish bus next to the number. Don't forget to use the dash here, so it looks neat. Whether you get stuck, okay, let's just start. Interesting. What I'm gonna do is, so basically we need to iterate firstly, yeah, from 1 to 100. So let's say for we have to declare the I first as integer because it's considered as number, starting from 1, and then this is for the precondition or just the initializer. So about the completion condition, we are gonna have to stop the I variable right before 100. So I think less than equal should be fit for this condition, and then the increment is as usual plus or just increment. So okay, let's go to the statement. We can just put if 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. Okay, so okay, the first one should be fish. Okay, so integer, I think I can just oh, I got it. So if value is divisible by 3, if value modulus by 3 is divisible by 3, then it will output what it will output. It will output bus or fish. Oh, okay, fish. It will output fish, but I guess I will just output this fish because there are two space here. Okay, so should be like this, and then we come to the next else if I is divisible by 5, and then we want to print out bus, yes, bus, or just change this one. Okay, another else if, wait, I think I got an idea there. Let's just make this as an else if, and then this one is else, and then we get if, another if here should be I modulus, okay, I modulus by 3 should be equal to 0, and then this as well equal to 0, because that's what we call divisible. All right, so here is I modulus by 3 is equal to 0. Don't forget to add ampersand, because as the fourth rule, when the current value is divisible by port 3 and 5, like this, divisible by port 3 and 5, then we want to have the output should be this bus like this. Okay, I think I got it. Or just fish bus. And then for else, oh wait, I actually forgot the counter from 1 to from 1 to 100. Console.write line, not right line. Wait, is it right line? Wait. Or probably I can just put it here. Else console.write red line I, yes, exactly like that. Or I can just using the interpolation like this. There you go. What is the problem here is, okay, this one is the problem, and I forgot the closing curly braces for statement. Okay, I think this one should be correct, as it says that if this is false, then it will count starting from 1 and then 2 and then 3, then the second guy will be correct, will be true, and then it will have an output of I is fish, and so on, like that. Or you can just make it like this. We're not gonna put I variable for its statement, but we're gonna just put I variable one time only. Probably should be in here, but don't forget to use this, right? Because we don't want to, or okay, I want to remove this because we want to make a new line. Every time it finishes the iteration, just like that. So this one is the same. I think this one has a less line of code rather than the upper one. I mean, I'm gonna check the first one first. Okay, hopefully there is no problem. There's no mistake there. Okay, fish bus fish. Okay, fish bus. I think this one is correct already. Fish bus fish bus. 13 is fish bus. Okay. Okay, let's check the second one. The second version. What is this, bro? 50. Oh, even this one. Let's try again. Okay, fish, bus, fish. 9 is fish, 10 is bus. 12 is fish, 15 is fish bus. Okay, the same thing. I would like to prefer, I think, the bottom one, since it has more compacted line of code rather than the upper one. So okay, let's just review the code here. Okay, they're in this code snippet. Basically, they are eliminating the curly braces and just immediately put the statement right below the if statement, below the else if statements. Okay, doesn't matter. Oh, basically you use the upper one for that. Okay, let's check this out. Integer I is equal to 1 and then I less than 101. I will prefer 100 and less than equal because it's stated in the rule that the counter is starting from 1 to 100. So putting 101, even though it is correct, it will affect my readability. So that's why I will prefer 100 and using the less than equal rather than 101 using only less than. Okay, and then I modulus by 3 equal to 0, or just I is divisible by 3 and I divisible by 5, and then it will output this bus. And then okay, basically the same. It has the same. This code is merely one possible solution. The first statement is important because it allows you to iterate through the code block 100 times. The if else allow you to check for the divisor of 3 and 5. The modulus, the operator, allow you to determine if 3 or 5 divide into another number without a remainder. So for 2 iterates this 100 times, and then if else allow you to check the divisor of 3 and 5, basically to check which one should be divisible by 3, which one should be divisible by 5 here, which one should be divisible by both of them. So the first one, I see. The modulus or just the mod operator allow you to determine if 3 or 5 divide into another number without a remainder. And the ampersand, or just logical AND operator, ensure that the number can be divided into both 3 and 5 for the fish bus condition. The code should produce the following output from 1 to 100. Should be like this. Also, my code output is yes. I'm excited. It's the same, and then congratulations, you are successful. Continue to on the knowledge check in the next unit. Another important here is if you had trouble completing this challenge, maybe you should review the previous unit. Okay, new ideas. Deepen on your understanding of the ideas that were presented in this module. Alright, let's knowledge check. Which of the following four statements is correct? This one is colon, semicolon, semicolon. But this one is not using the increment or decrement operator properly, just j plus by 1. What is that? We're not gonna get the result there. So the third one will be correct. And which statement can be used to exit? This is just repeating the question like in the second unit. So there you go. Okay, we come up to the summary. Your goal was to gain additional control over the iteration process by implementing the for statement in your code. So the keyword is about control. We basically want to control the logic. We can put if statements there with the else if statement using the nested statements. Basically, for is you can customize it. Condition starting from the precondition. You want to start from 1, you want to start from 100, it's up to you. Or maybe you can just put a variable there that has a value as an initializer. It's basically up to you. And then we can customize the condition, the completion condition, like 1 until 100 like we did before. We just customize it. And then the final one is increment or decrement, or just the iteration pattern. Basically the counter. So this is purely for control the flow of coding process. You can put if else if statements and other thing that related to logic statement. Okay, so modifying the initializer, condition, and iterator of the first statement provides precise control over the iteration logic. Using the for statement, you iterated a hard-coded number of times and use the length on an array to iterate through the code block once for each item in the array. So important thing here, if you want to iterate through an array elements, you have to use the length. You have to use this because you don't use for each. Because you want to iterate through the index of the array, so that's why length is essential for this for statement. If you want to iterate through the collection of elements, you modify the iterator, the condition for exiting the loop, which is break, and the pattern for iteration. You use the break keyword to exit out the loop body prematurely. Okay, so before the condition is met, or just before the iteration should be completed, you can just put break there, like for some purpose that you need. It basically stop the loop iteration prematurely. Without the iteration control provided by the for statement, you will not be able to complete certain coding tasks, such as looping through the data in a multi-dimensional array. It's like that. So I can just complete this module for today. Yes. All right. Let's finish this. I think I get this question three times. Okay, so this is basically for today's session, day 19. This is much more important lesson that I learned today about the four statement. Very powerful. I see there are a lot of four statement inside lead code. Like sometimes I watch in YouTube about lead code stuff or just programming stuff. First statement is just very commonly used by any developer. It's related. Sometimes it's related to algorithm and data structure. Probably it's like searching and then sorting. It's essential for that and will be used much more in the complex area, which I probably still doesn't know about that. So yeah, uh, thank you for today, and I'll see you in the next video.